Managing a small team or business comes with a unique set of challenges. With limited resources and manpower, it's easy for things to feel chaotic and out of your control. How can you, as a leader, accomplish your goals while keeping your team engaged, effective, and accountable? This podcast will give you practical strategies you can implement now to lead your team or business to reach its fullest potential. Welcome to the Organizing Chaos podcast with your host, Danny Coleman.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of Organizing Chaos, where we find small practical strategies for small teams and small businesses. Today, I'm doing something a bit different. As you can see, I'm not, my normal whiteboard is over here. We got a different vantage point right now. And we've also got my longtime business partner and friend, Brian Elwood, on the show with us. Brian, say hello.
What's going on, Danny? Thanks for having me, man.
Totally. So today's going to be my first interview with a small business owner. And so I'm really excited to do this. And so I'll just go ahead and get right into it. I want to try to keep this under 20 minutes. And Brian, tell us a little bit about who you are.
Sure. So I moved to Tennessee when I was middle school. Grew up there, went to college there. I did the corporate thing. After college, tons of crappy jobs my whole life. And then I became an entrepreneur to finally try and escape that. Got into real estate investing probably 6-7 years ago. Built a pretty big business doing wholesale deals, fix and flip deals, buying rental properties. That's actually when I met you. And we started working together. I don't know, that was 3-4 years ago now. And then since then, we kind of made the business virtual, basically kind of set it up to be automated, the business that's in Tennessee. So I've still got that business, although it's changed, as you know, a lot. And now I live in Colorado, run the business from here, the business in Tennessee. And I've also got a education company that I launched that you also run, basically. That's less than a year old. And basically what we do is teach people how to invest in rental properties to create cash flow and enough to replace their income, and teach them how to do it virtually in other markets than where they live, just like I do. So that's kind of the 2-minute summary of what I do and what I'm passionate about.
Right on. So what originally kind of drew you to real estate from? I know you had a corporate job before. What was it that kind of got you looking at real estate and wanting to own your own real estate business?
I read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and he talks all about, instead of working for dollars, you need to learn how to make your dollars work for you and create passive income. And in this whole concept of financial freedom is the day when your passive income covers your expenses, whatever it costs you to live. If you have that coming in without working, just hitting your mailbox, you're financially free. I was like, wow, I've got to have that. Sounds like the most amazing thing ever. And then I met a mentor who fixed and flipped houses in Nashville, and he kind of took me under his wing, taught me how to do things for about a year. So kind of the combination of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and just meeting this guy, I just kind of dove into real estate full time. It just seemed like the best fit for my goals.
Cool. So it was you and Frank. You guys started you guys were kind of both doing something independent, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
You guys came together. What was it like kind of getting to that point where you realized you needed to hire your first employee?
Man, so we operated as a one-man show or a two-man show, basically, where we were co-owners for, I don't know, it was at least a couple years. And our revenue always maxed out at a few $100,000 a year in revenue from doing flips and stuff, which that sounds like a lot of money, but dividing it between two people and marketing costs and all this stuff's coming out of it. So it wasn't really a ton considering how much we were working. And we were just running around like crazy doing everything ourselves, and we couldn't scale. There was just no more time left in the day. And then we hired a rock star business coach, a guy named Joe McCall. He's a big time real estate educator. And he kind of looked at what we were doing. He's like, guys, why don't you hire somebody to help you? Why don't you hire an acquisition manager specifically to take phone calls, go on appointments, analyze leads, work with the customers so that you'd be freed up. and we're very resistant to his advice, but we were paying him good money. So we decided to go ahead and pull the trigger. And I'll spare you some of the details, but we hired a rock star acquisition guy named Kyle, who you obviously know. And literally within 12 calendar months, our revenue tripled, where we did over $1 million inside of 1 year. But we also had probably half of our time back. Yeah, it was just, and that just blew our minds wide open to the power of delegation and the fact that letting go it actually can be a really good thing for a business owner. That was that breaking point, I guess, where that happened.
How did that? What do you think caused you guys to resist like letting go of at least the first thing, which was getting contracts locked up, which was the acquisition manager does, basically sales.
Right.
I guess what do you think caused you to resist doing that, and why your coach had to push you so hard?
It's a good question, man. I can specifically remember the feeling of the resistance. We got off the coaching call with him and we were just like, man, we got to, hire somebody to go out and do arguably the most important part of the business, which is close deals and negotiate and work with the customer. Right. And we're going to let some other guy do that when we've been doing it for years. It was tough, maybe it would have been easier if we had started with an office manager or something like that. Uh-huh. But yeah, it was just like a lack of trust, right? You just wonder, is this person going to treat the business and the customers the same way that I would? So yeah, that was, I think, our biggest holdup.
What do you think? Was there can you think of a moment or maybe like a part of time where you felt like you were convinced that this person was going to, Kyle specifically, was going to do things like in a way that would uphold like your quality or what your standards were?
When the revenue started coming in, it's hard to argue when, he took 10 or 15% of the gross revenue for his cut. But if he triples the business, there's still a lot more left over for us.
Yeah.
And I really didn't like that part of the business. I don't like being sales guy. I don't like to be on the phone and negotiating. It's not my personality at all. So that was kind of the moment. But to be honest with you, a bigger part of the reason the revenue was coming in is that we got lucky with our timing, investing in areas like East Nashville, when not a lot of people were doing it. And there's a saying that a rising tide floats all boats, right? And we were kind of like one of the boats on the rising tide. So there were deeper issues with the way that we were managing people and getting results that were masked by the revenue that was coming in for 2-3 years. It was just like, oh, we must be business geniuses because look at all this money. So that was the initial, but then, it kind of, the problems got exposed, I guess, down the road.
Mm-hmm. So what are some of the problems that you think came up, and why do you think they came up?
Well, as you know, but the listeners don't know, I'm like a textbook visionary, right? Like a Steve Jobs, although I'm not nearly as smart as he is, right? But personality wise, I'm the wacky guy with tons of ideas. I get real excited about things. I'm real confident that everything's going to work out and that we can do it, almost overconfident at times. But I don't like details. I don't like managing people. I don't like, I get bored real easily. If I can't make things fun, my mind kind of shuts off. So, as we grew, because we actually hired 2, 3, 4, 5 other people, after Kyle, and I was basically the manager. You were one of them. And I was forced to be a manager to every single person in the company, which was not my strong suit. I was constantly flooding the company with new ideas and abandoning things that we had already set up, existing systems. I would just let those die and be like, there's this new thing we're going to bring in that's going to fix everything. And that does not work, as you know, for business. It's a very bad, but unfortunately a very common way that businesses operate. So when the money was coming in, everything was great, and we were doing all these deals, it can overshadow the issues, right? So once the competition came in, things started to dry up a little bit. And then all the issues in our businesses kind of reared their ugly heads at that point.
So as far as, so you mentioned you're visionary, and I've talked about before on the podcast and preach a lot about the gospel of basically visionaries and integrators. What was there a moment where you realized that, because you're the one who you pointed out Rocket Fuel to me in the first place, which was the book that, I honestly, I would say, it maybe sounds dramatic, but I'd say it's changed my life.
Yeah.
It's helped me to understand what types of opportunities I should pursue and what to, beat myself up about versus what not to. Like, I used to beat myself up for certain visionary qualities that I did not have. And I realized that the only reason I didn't have those qualities was because this wasn't my business. I wasn't the visionary in this business. So I was an integrator, and I would see problems and want to solve them and whatnot. But in then reading that book, let me lean more into that. So did you realize at any certain point where you knew about the idea, the visionary integrator thing? Did you realize when it wasn't, the business wasn't really set up that way? Did you realize that there was a point where it's like, okay, I like the visionary integrator thing, but I guess we're not doing that?
Yeah.
Maybe it's a convoluted question. I don't know if
well, this is like a bit of a tangent, but I do believe that the core reason that our old business failed was actually, we didn't have an integrator, but also me and the other owner were both visionaries. Me and Frank were both visionaries, and we over time grew to have different visions for the business. So we spent all this time convincing each other of our idea was best and stuff, and it was really slow for the business. So that's one of the core reasons that we ended up splitting. But around that time, I remember you came to me and you kind of had a presentation prepared about, here's what I think's wrong with the business. I think you need to let me run everything and manage everybody. And we need to live this visionary integrator role. And I remember talking to Frank about that and being like, Danny's right. We need to do this. I'm finally starting to see it. But by then it was too late. We kind of, the two visionary thing was still an issue that had to be solved. So we did have to go our separate ways, but let's say it had been my company and, there wasn't that issue, I would have, at that point, let you take over and be the integrator fully.
Thank you. How do you it's a hard thing. And I find when I'm consulting with people and I'm either trying to convince them of the visionary integrator thing, and I'm trying to basically convince them they need to find an integrator, because I pretty much exclusively work with visionaries. I've not met an integrator who started the business yet. It is a little bit difficult to convince them of the power of an integrator. And then on top of that, if let's just say you've already got somebody on your team and they're just a manager right now, kind of really empowering them the way that an integrator needs to be empowered. So can you think of the differences between maybe where my role was when I was COO, but not really the integrator, versus what an integrator's power needs to kind of look like, and how do you deal with trusting someone with that much more than just a regular old manager at your business? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's a good question, man. I don't have a great answer for you on how you could go out and convince your clients that this is the real deal. Other than let them experience enough pain until there's no other option, basically, because that's how it was for me. Yeah, so I'm trying to think. I'll have to dig more into that kind of personally and try to figure out what made me have that shift. But when we were calling you the COO of the first company, we weren't really letting you embody that role. I came to learn that a true integrator essentially runs the business. They run the day-to-day. They make sure the trains ship on time, like the book says. And we were giving you control of creating certain systems for the business and launching them into orbit, but that was about it. We were still managing everybody and having our fingers in everything. And so we were doing it wrong. And it took me years of doing that. I really don't like managing people. Like I said, I had to do that sometimes I'd wake up and my entire calendar for the whole week was You got to call with this person. You got to call with that person. You got to call with this one. And then you get on the call and it's like, all right, let's look at your KPIs. Let's look at your position agreement. Are you doing what you're supposed to do? Are you following all the systems that we've been coming up with? I just lose interest in that so fast. Right. So, small business owners that are listening to this, if you dread that kind of stuff, but you also realize it's crucial for businesses to grow, then there is a way out, and it is through trust. And yes, if you trust somebody, things can go bad. They could screw up. You could hire the wrong person or whatever, and you have to be willing to lose money, lose time, or whatever, and still own the fact that you made another mistake. You hired the wrong person, or you're not giving them enough control or whatever. You don't have to give somebody the entire reins to your business right away either. Even Rocket Fuel says you can do it over like about a year period where you slowly release the full control.
Yeah.
So yeah, we could go on and on forever, but I'll stop there.
Sure. Yeah. So I wanted to hear some more about so as a visionary, so when I talk to a lot of visionaries, a big part of it is time and time again, we'll go over responsibilities at the division between the responsibilities between visionary and integrator. And there will be so many different things that the integrator is doing. And then the visionary has a much shorter list of things that they're supposed to be doing. And they just feel like that they're like, what am I supposed to do? Or where am I? If I'm not running the business day to day, what do I do? Where am I spending most of my time?
Mm-hmm.
So can you speak a little bit to that? Like when you get to be visionary kind of full on, or you have an integrator you can trust, what do you do as a visionary?
It's a great question. So this is a little bit of something that I learned from Russell Brunson. I don't think we've talked about it, but he talks about how for a business to be successful in marketing, there needs to be somebody who is a high D running the company.
For like the disc.
Yeah, on the disc test. And D stands for, is it dominant or what is it?
I can't recall offhand.
Yeah, either way, like the high D is like a Russell Brunson kind of guy. Right? The guy who's like easily like all over social media, and he's like willing to be like the face of the company. So, as the visionary, that's actually part of your role in the company. Like I'm the visionary for our education business. I'm recording podcast episodes and YouTube videos. I'm going on other shows. I'm creating content. I'm working on projects that you and I have come up with in the vision. That I'm real excited about and move us towards the vision, and all that kind of stuff. So it's not like you're doing nothing, but you are doing a lot less than you used to do. So it's definitely weird. There's days where I wake up now and I'm like, crap, what am I supposed to do today? And I'll just, I am a little confused, at times because you feel like you should be busier. But I think that's maybe like a trap that we all fall into as small business owners, to be working all the time on something.
Yeah, and I think that probably, I would say that from my experience, that's what I see. That feeling of needing to be busy. I mean, I think like as a society, we have that's a problem. It's a plague almost. And that's why so many people are doing busy work, and why big corporations pay a lot of money for someone to work for 20 hours a week or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But as a visionary, I think that manifests in micromanagement, in the need to be busy. If you don't have someone who is managing, as a visionary, that energy that you have that otherwise pulls the business forwards into new innovative areas and stuff like that, it manifests itself in micromanagement of your business. And so you end up working long hours, or you end up, just being over someone's back while they're doing work and stuff like that. So that's interesting. Yeah. I mean, and it's been hard for me to explain that to visionaries. When I get to the point where I'm consulting with them and I'm helping them understand what they need to be doing versus what the integrator needs to be doing, they'll, like I said earlier, they'll oftentimes see that and be like, oh, well, what do I do? And I've been kind of helping people, because I've been working on articulating this as well. And I appreciate the way that you shared it. And I think that the visionary gets to be somewhat of a magnet for the business, like a lightning rod. They're the ones that kind of bring like leads in, if you will. They bring in the business, the big accounts, the clients and stuff like that. And then it's the integrator and then the team that's under the integrator their job is to then deliver on everything that the visionary is promising to everyone about the problems that their business can solve, or what they're going to do, or what they're going to deliver. It's kind of like, so they have to let the integrator build something that'll deliver a consistent product that allows them to kind of go free reign into the different areas where they see that their business can serve customers or clients. And then once, so they kind of pioneer or charge into these areas, and then they should, if they're properly set up, then they let their integrator and the team deliver on those promises. So anyways, I think it's the same thing twice there pretty much, but yeah, so cool. And I want to ask more visionaries that question, because I do want to try to give more direction to a visionary whenever I'm helping them understand, look, being less busy is what is going to bring more success for you. So
yeah, visionaries have to realize at the end of the day that they're not really cut out to run businesses. That might be hard to hear, but I've just seen examples time and time again in my own life. There's a show I love called The Profit with Marcus Lemonis. I'm sure a lot of people have seen it. It's a really good business show.
Yeah.
And every episode he comes in and there's a wacky visionary who has like back rooms full of stock that they're never selling. And it's like the skeletons of all their ideas that didn't work out. Right. And when Marcus comes and makes an investment in a big investment in the company, he usually brings in a COO or general manager or integrator, whatever you call it, type figure to run the ship. And he lets the original visionary, who's usually maybe like an artsy, right-brained kind of type person, be like the designer or do something like that. So they get to stay in their zone of genius, but then there's a guy who run the business. And this is a guy who's a business expert, and then the business scales dramatically. So this dynamic that we're discussing exists in every big business, in every corporate business, right? You have to have like managers and CEOs and COOs and all that stuff. Like, it's a proven model. I think it's almost like we're trying to like awaken small businesses to the same power that has made every big business what it is.
Yeah. I agree with that. That's definitely, I would say, probably what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
So I'm going to wrap it up. We just crossed the 22 minute mark. And so apologies to everyone who I always promise the 20 minutes, but I think that hopefully this has really been some good content for you. Last question I want to ask you, Brian, to wrap it up is, how would you compare, old Brian, pre visionary integrator concept embracing Brian to now, and specifically as it goes to your time and lifestyle?
Man, it's much better. I wake up excited about my day. I know I get to work on things that really give me energy and are fun for me. I know I have you to act as a filter for my ideas as well. So that's another thing we didn't really discuss on this episode, is that the integrator actually has the ability to be more focused than the visionaries normally do. So you get to act as the tiebreaker if we're debating on whether or not an idea should be implemented now or should it be saved till later or whatever. So as a result, I feel a lot more focused, and I wake up knowing what my job is, and just trusting that if something's going to break in the business, that you or one of the people that you manage is going to handle it, right? And obviously we've been doing this for only 5, 6, 7 months or whatever the right way. So we're still learning and working out kinks and things like that. But it's dramatically better, man. And I can just already see how good things are going to be once we scale enough to where we can really bring in a team under you to where every single piece is delegated. I mean, I'm going to have tons of free time. I'm going to be able to go snowboarding on a Tuesday anytime I want, and just, as long as I get my few things that I got to get done, I trust that the business is running, then, life is good. So
yeah, doing the needle moving stuff. So
yeah, exactly.
Cool. Well, awesome. I think we definitely, I think we've got more for another episode at some later time. So I'm definitely going to have you on again. Everyone, thank you so much for being on this episode, or for tuning into this episode. If you're interested in anything more about this, you can always email me, danny@dannycoleman.me. You can email me ideas for topics if you have something you'd like for us to talk about, or even if you'd like for me to have Brian back on. to talk about some stuff. Would love to do that. I already have about 3 different ideas right now for future topics for Brian and I. And so if you like this, please like it on YouTube. If you're already on YouTube, watching on YouTube, share, subscribe, all that fancy jazz. And Brian, thanks so much for being on. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, man. And just real quick, if you guys want
to give you your pitch time.
You almost cut me off, dude. I was going to get pissed. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I wrote a book, Fire Yourself. You can get it at fireyourself.net, a free copy. You just got to cover shipping. And I have a podcast called the Virtual Real Estate Investing Podcast. And basically what I do is teach people how to become financially free. I help people learn how to buy their first dozen rental properties. I have a saying that 12 houses equals financial freedom. I know that's vague, but you'll learn more about what that means if you check out some of my content. So yeah.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. So if you have any interest in real estate whatsoever, Brian's your guy, and you're going to be able to he's got a great podcast. He's really relatable. He's as relatable as he was in this episode. So anyways, thanks again for being on, Brian. And thank you everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Want more? Go to DannyColeman.me to download Danny's free small business hiring guide, which includes tips, templates, and tools, plus a step-by-step process you can use to find and keep high-quality employees for your small team or business.